I don't think there's any need to fix your hair.
Is it beyond repair, or does it look okay?
No, I think that just the lighting in the camera is not.
Don't worry, viewers, my hair is perfect.
Ideal.
Okay, well, I guess I'll start. So, we're down at the cabin. It's the cabin we built in the spring. I'm sure we'll touch on that a little bit later in other videos. But I think we wanted to maybe just briefly talk about how we got this place, how we found this piece of land and bought the house. We were living in Portsmouth at the time, and we had stayed at Erin's parents' place up in Maine for about 2 years, and that's where we got our first kind of touch into farming, and it was fun. We went from living in an apartment to like 46 animals in like 6 months, because we decided if we're going to do the farm thing, let's do the farm thing. So we kind of went all in, and it was enjoyable. So fast forward, we're living in Portsmouth in 2014, 2015, and we decided we'll look for land and either build a house or buy a farm. And well, it was slim pickings. It was very discouraging trying to find what we wanted, because we were trying to keep within a certain budget, because we knew we would need a lot of equipment and tools and things like that to try to do this endeavor. And we'd basically given up at one point, just kind of threw in the towel.
Well, you told me that. I remember you called me and you were like, I'm sorry, but the only thing we can afford in our price range is probably going to be like 5 acres or in a neighborhood development. And then I started crying and I was like, thanks for moving me to New Hampshire. This place sucks.
You're like, I hate it here. It's stupid.
Well, I knew I didn't want to live on, at that point it was less than 10 acres.
Yeah.
10 acres or more would have made me happy, and then I definitely didn't want to be in a neighborhood.
So we were trying to get creative, and we had actually we priced out how to build and convert a Quonset hut, one of those metal ribbed buildings. We were going to buy a kit, buy some land, install one of those, insulate it, and then frame it out and make it a house. And I mean, I think most of our family members thought that was just the most god-awful, ugly thing they'd ever heard of, so there wasn't a lot of support for that idea.
Although I would still consider a Quonset hut.
Yeah, they're awesome. If you buy the kit, they're relatively inexpensive, like 10 to 15 to 25 grand. You put them up on a foundation, pour a slab, radiant heat flooring, and you could heat the place with like a candle once it's all spray foamed insulated, and no ice dam damage or anything. No water would infiltrate the structure.
I had already bought AutoCAD.
Yeah.
And started engineering like floor plan layouts.
Yep. We had it all designed, and then, then the financing became kind of tough because you can't finance land. And so anyway, we had basically just given up, and we're like, well, I guess we'll spend another year in Portsmouth in this apartment, and we'll do our laundry with a bunch of strangers at the local laundry facility on site, which had its own issues. And then we found this place on an app on my phone. I found it on like a Saturday morning at like 7 in the morning. Just happened to open up my phone. We were drinking a cup of coffee together, and we found this place. And I was like, oh my God, Erin, there's this place that we can buy. It's got a ton of land, and we can afford it. And there were no interior photos, which, if you've ever tried buying a house, if there are no interior photos, there's a reason.
Yeah, red flag.
The big red flag. The place is probably pretty dumpy and beat up inside. And so we drove out here, and I remember driving out here, and it was in March, and the frost heaves were awful. We took the back roads to get here from Raymond, and I was thinking, we can't live here. It's the middle of nowhere. The roads are going to ruin our vehicles. It was just like we were being washboarded all over the road just trying to get out here on the back roads. And the driveway was a 4-wheel drive driveway, very poorly maintained. It was very rutted and muddy and horrible. We were driving up. It looked like an access road. We didn't even know there was a house up there when we met the realtor. And
What was your first perspective?
Well, at the time, I was doing insurance restoration work, so I had been in a lot of homes. I had been in like really upscale, nice homes, medium homes. I've been in a bunch of like lower income homes, a bunch of mobile homes and stuff. And without a doubt, this was the worst house I'd ever been in, without a doubt. And we walked through, and the layout was weird and odd, and the house was all beat up. And
we couldn't even tell which direction.
And then we get outside, and Erin's like, "So what do you think?" And I'm like, I just hate it. I think it's terrible." And Erin's like, "We should buy it." So we put an offer in, and we bought it.
Well, we went to the Blueberry Station.
Yeah.
And we sat there for a little while. And you were like, "What? Why would you want to buy that?" And I'm like, "There's so much potential." And then we got sandwiches and we ate them at some war memorial in
Epsom.
Epsom.
Yeah, right off of 28. Yeah, we bought it for the land. That was the real drive. The house itself was not a big selling feature. It wasn't like, "Oh my God, this place is amazing." It was like, "Oh my God, what a nightmare this place is." But it had a sizable piece of land, so we decided to buy it. And it's kind of weird to think about because it's been 4.5 years, and here we are sitting in a cabin that we built in the spring.
Yeah, I can't wait we'll come down here during the day and get some really good video and photos of the inside of the cabin, but I think that sharing the cabin with everybody would be a really cool experience. It's kind of dark right now. We actually have way more lights than we would ever normally have going.
Just trying to get the video to show up.
Mm-hmm.
So back to the house. When we bought the house, it was pretty rough. Lots of dogs, lots of cats, lots of cigarettes inside. There was no paint on the inside, so all the drywall smelled like cigarette smoke. And we bought a 1984 16-foot tow-behind camper, and we lived in that for like 2 months in August and September, or July into September by the time we closed, because the house was just totally uninhabitable. We gutted the entire kitchen. We did a bunch of we ripped up floors, and we ripped down some interior walls. It was just, saturated with animal urine, and it's pretty gross. We had to paint the whole house inside with like an oil base, like a Kills. And so we got to know the local pizza joints pretty good. We kind of just went through and ordered every pizza on the menu. Yeah, what an undertaking. To be honest, if I had known how much work and effort and money and time it would take just to get to this point, I still would have bought it. But you definitely would have had some second thoughts. Because you think like, "Oh yeah, we'll just bulldoze right through," and then you move in, and once you have content in the house and like upholstered items like clothing and rugs and tapestries, curtains, couches, everything you do becomes way more of a chore. And then, let alone the outside stuff that you're trying to do. So it's just like, this is a lot of stuff to do.
Yeah, because I still want to paint my living room.
I know. It's on the list.
Sounds like a good to-do list for tomorrow.
Oh yeah. It's gonna rain tomorrow.
Yeah. I don't know. I definitely knew I wanted the house when I saw it. And I remember there was a lot of snow. The house was very dirty. It was really hard to see what we were actually looking at, because even the room layouts, like you mentioned, it didn't really make sense. There were just walls and doors everywhere, and you would be standing in one side of the house, and then you try to figure out which way did you even come in? Where am I in the house right now? Am I upstairs? Am I downstairs? And we weren't allowed to take any photos, which was frustrating because there weren't interior photos on the listing, and we couldn't take photos when we were here. So after we left the showing, of course I had my AutoCAD software up and running, and I was trying to recreate the house layout, which I'd like to just give myself a little pat on the back, because the layout I freehand based on the actual measurements was pretty darn close.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. And then we came back for the building inspection once we went under contract. I guess we could back up even more too. Going under contract was a challenge in itself, because we submitted an offer and we wanted to hear back as soon as possible, but the seller just sat on our offer. He just wasn't prepared to respond. So I ended up writing a personal letter to the seller, and I thought maybe he was confused as far as what he wanted to do because it had been a piece of property that had been in the family for so long. And we ended up getting a response pretty quickly from that.
Mm-hmm.
So once we went under contract, we immediately did our inspection, which just included just some random guy to come and just do a general building inspection, and then my dad, he came. And that was when we were able to take photos and get measurements, and I was able to like really recreate the house in AutoCAD and kind of remove walls and rebuild the house.
Yeah, to give you an idea, our house is about 2,200 square feet, and I think there were like 10 or 11 doors on the first floor, which is, if you don't know anything about like home building, that's like way too many doors. So you were walking around and like you'd open a door into what you thought was a closet, and it was a hallway with 3 doors in it, and they all went to other rooms that also had doors. It was very compartmentalized and not in like an organized way. It was just, there were just doors everywhere.
And a back bedroom, which now is a guest bedroom downstairs, that literally was nothing. I mean, they
Plywood floors.
Yeah, plywood and drywall, and that was it.
Yeah.
And now it's a really, really nice guest bedroom.
Our house
I'll
had...
make sure to give everybody a tour of the house.
Yeah, our house had 15 years of renters in it before we bought it, and during the inspection we had found out that there were burst pipes upstairs from from the pipes just freezing, and the last company to deliver oil had been 3 years prior, so there had been no working furnace for 3 years in the house. Which is amazing because our house is built in the 40s. It's got like R11 in the walls that have been all mouse infested. Yeah. So like there's R11 in pockets.
Where there is insulation.
Yeah, where there is. Because there's big voids where there isn't. Our house is very drafty. Is this good?
No.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess that's a synopsis of us buying our place and moving in.